Every day at the exact same hour, an old German shepherd would appear at the edge of the forest and silently watch the cabin of a man who had vanished from the world. She never barked, never approached, never showed fear, only stood like a soldier on a forgotten post. Her presence was precise, unwavering, a shadow against the trees that arrived without fail. But when the blizzard struck, she didn't come. For Elias, the silence that followed wasn't peace. It was a scream in the dark. The absence of her watchful form sent a cold spike of dread through his chest. He had grown used to her, depended on her in ways he never admitted, and now, in the howling dark, he knew something was terribly wrong. Elias was a man shaped by fire and loss. Once a firefighter in the heart of Colorado's deadliest wildfire season, he had carried the weight of lives he couldn't save into the quiet of these mountains. At 47, his face bore the deep lines of sleepless nights and unspoken grief. His frame was lean, hardened by years of discipline and solitude. He lived in a timber cabin tucked deep in the Rockies, far from towns, far from voices, far from memories that screamed in the dark. His life was stripped bare. No photos, no books, no distractions, just wood to chop, a perimeter to walk, and silence to keep. He had built this place not as a home, but as a bunker against the past. Then came the dog. Silver-muzzled, regal, her coat a blend of ash and frost, she stood at the tree line like a sentinel from another time. Elias first saw her at dusk, motionless, her eyes locked on his cabin with a focus that felt almost human. She didn't beg, didn't flinch, just watched. He called her the Sentinel in his mind, a name that fit her solemn bearing. Day after day she returned, same time, same spot, same unwavering gaze. He began to mark his hours by her arrival. The wood chopping would end early. The perimeter check would slow near the clearing. He found himself waiting, not just watching, but expecting. She became a fixed point in his drifting world, a silent companion in the vast quiet. His routine shifted without him realizing it. The axe rested earlier. The fire was lit before dark. He'd sit on the porch steps, hands on his knees, eyes on the tree line, heart beating a little faster as the hour approached. He told himself it was curiosity, not connection. But the truth was, the silence no longer felt like a prison. It felt shared. When she sat on her moss-covered boulder, head high, ears alert, he felt less alone. Not because she came for him, but because she came at all. Her loyalty to an unseen ritual gave his own isolation meaning. He wasn't just hiding. He was witnessing something sacred. One afternoon, driven by a need he couldn't name, Elias crossed the yard and stepped into the woods. He approached the boulder, the dog's throne, and searched the ground. Beneath a layer of pine needles, he found it, a faded red tennis ball, cracked and brittle with age. It was light in his hand, fragile as a memory. And in that moment, he understood. This wasn't her post. It was his. She wasn't watching Elias. She was remembering someone who once sat beside her on that rock, who threw that ball, who loved her. She came every day not to see a stranger, but to honor a ghost. Elias placed the ball back gently, covered it with needles, and stepped away, humbled. The next day, he left a piece of beef jerky on the boulder. No words, no gestures, just an offering. He retreated inside, heart pounding, and watched from the window. She came, sniffed the air, looked at the cabin. Then, with slow dignity, she took the jerky and ate it. Elias exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for years. It wasn't friendship, not yet, but it was acknowledgement. A bridge built on silence, respect, and a shared understanding of loss. From that day, the space between them wasn't empty. It was filled with something fragile, something real. Then the storm hit. Not with warning, but with a sudden, suffocating stillness. The sky turned leaden. The wind died. Birds vanished. Elias recognized the signs. He boarded up, stocked water, piled wood. But as the snow began to fall, first soft, then fierce, he found himself staring at the clock. The hour came, no dog. The clearing vanished under white. Panic, cold and sharp, crept into his chest. He paced. The cabin, once his sanctuary, now felt like a tomb. The silence he'd craved was back, but it was hollow, screaming. He realized then, his peace wasn't in the quiet. It was in her. Without her ritual, his mind began to unravel. Memories surged. Flames, screams, the weight of a body he couldn't carry out. He fell to his knees, breath ragged, hands clutching his head. The past was winning. But then, an image. The dog on her rock. Calm, unshaken, he focused on her stillness, her loyalty, her quiet strength. Slowly, his breathing steadied. The ghosts receded. He wasn't saved by silence. He was saved by her. But when dawn came and she still hadn't appeared, he knew. He had to go. Not to save her, to save himself. He dressed like a man going to war, boots laced tight, scarf over his face, flashlight in hand. The door opened to a wall of wind and snow. He stepped out, head down, and disappeared into the white. Every step was a battle. The cold bit through layers, the wind tried to knock him down, but he moved with purpose, using the trees as cover, following the slope east, remembering every inch of this land. He wasn't searching blindly. He was on a mission, and failure wasn't an option. Hours passed. The storm raged. He found a paw print under a hemlock. Then another. Faint, filling with snow, but there. He followed them like a lifeline. The trail led deeper, to a part of the woods he'd never seen, and there, half buried in snow, was a small cabin. The prints led to the door. He pounded. No answer. He forced it open. Inside, on the floor, lay an old man, pale, barely breathing, and beside him, trembling, was the dog, her body curled around his like a shield. Her eyes met Elias's, not with fear, with hope. Elias knelt, checked the pulse, weak, thready, hypothermia. He worked fast, built a fire, wrapped the man in blankets, checked for injuries. The dog watched every move, tail twitching once when the fire caught. Hours passed, the storm howled, then a groan. The old man's eyes opened, sharp, blue, aware. "May," he whispered. "She's here," Elias said. "She never left you." The man exhaled, relief softening his face. May thumped her tail once. The room was silent except for the crackle of flames. 3 strangers, 1 storm, 1 dog who held them all together. The man's name was Silas, 90 years old, a widower. The dog, May, had belonged to his late wife, Clara. That spot by Elias's cabin? Their favorite sunset view. After Clara passed, May started going there every day. "She's not waiting," Silas said. "She's remembering." Elias felt something break open in his chest. He understood. Loyalty wasn't always loud. Sometimes, it was a dog sitting in the snow, honoring a love that never died. "She's a good soldier," Elias said. Silas looked at him, then at his uniform on the mantle. "So were you," he replied. No more words were needed. When the storm passed, they walked outside. The world was white, clean, reborn. Silas pointed to tracks, deer, fox, hare, reading, the snow like a book. Elias listened, really listened, for the first time. The mountain wasn't empty. It was alive. May walked between them, tail wagging. She nudged Elias's hand. He stroked her head, and she leaned in, eyes closed. The leash of silence had become a bond of trust. Days turned to weeks. A path formed between the cabins. Elias brought firewood. Silas shared stories. They worked in quiet rhythm, 2 men who had lost much, now finding peace in small things. May split her time, a gray and white ambassador of loyalty. The nightmares came less. The silence was no longer empty, it was full of peace. One evening, as the sky turned violet, they sat on Silas's porch. May slept at Elias's feet. He looked at the mountain, not as a wall, but as a home. He had come here to disappear. Instead, he was found. By a dog, by a man, by a quiet love that asked for nothing and gave everything. Perhaps the deepest connections aren't the ones we seek, but the ones that find us when we're lost, guided by a loyalty we never knew we needed.